Yeah, we have 4 more games to play. The next 2 games are at home at Old Trafford, and obviously we will try to get as many points and win as many games as we possibly can out of those last 4 games. In order to do that, we need to play on the best level that we possibly can, and we know that Chelsea is a good team, but we also know that if we play well, that it's also possible to win the game tomorrow. I don't think it makes sense now to still speak and speculate about the Champions League. We need to be realistic. Even if we win all 4 games, it's still not in our own hands. But what is in our own hands is the way that we play, the level of our performance, and even for the next season, I think it's important to finish this season on the best possible note. Obviously, if results are not going well, and we lost 3 of the last 4 games, this always means that the morale or the energy in the locker room is not as good as it would be if we had won those 4 games. But still, we have to perform. This is what we are getting paid for. This is also important for the players. They also, now knowing who the new manager will be, they have to perform and to show in front of, again, 75,000 tomorrow that we are able to beat a team like Chelsea. And this is our job. This is what everybody has to do, and this is what we're working at for the whole week in preparation of the game. Of course, it would be better if we played Champions League next season, but this also affects other clubs. This is not a problem that only Manchester United has, but I mean, the renewal of the contract of Bruno showed that it's still possible. This club is an attractive club, and with a new manager and with a new approach with the new manager and the way that he wants to play, this is still a massively interesting club, and I'm looking forward to help both Eric and the club and everybody at the club to get the best and to change the whole approach again next season, so that Manchester United can be a top club again.
Well, Manchester United can be a top club again. Manchester United fans would argue that they are still a top club who are underperforming, admittedly, at the moment. Where are they right now, Manchester United? They have a manager appointed. They have Ralf Rangnick in situ. Still not sure whether he's going to be there in a sort of director of sport capacity, or sports director capacity at the time.
Where are they now? I think they're a million miles away from Manchester City and Liverpool, that's for sure. If that's the yardstick, and it's going to take them a few years to get back to that. I think that they've still got great players. The organisation, from the management level down to the manager they're picking, then the players, and it's all over the place. They've still got the same people upstairs making the decisions, whether they bring in a manager who's got unbelievable experience like Van Gaal or Mourinho. Then you've gone with the club favourite in Solskjaer, where you go with David Moyes, the new and upcoming guy. They've tried everything, and it's still not working. And now we're seeing so much coming out of the dressing room. When you say where have they fallen to, how far they're rock bottom right now. When Diz will help me there. And when you start getting that much coming out of a dressing room, it's massively, massively wrong. So Ten Hag coming into a dressing room, right, Diz, where you've got players who, where they're going to, even the players who leave Man United, where are they going to go? They're not going to go anywhere better than Man United. And so you look at it, Ten Hag must be now looking to play in a way where that manager could say, okay, I'll keep him, but they're not even doing that.
But I think this question of the players and the quality of those players is a really interesting one, because there are a lot of players in that squad who at times have been seen as near to the top of their field. Yeah. And yet at the moment you look at the team sheet and you think, oh, it doesn't look like a great team. But at times those players have been seen as great players. It's the performances that have kind of skewed opinions on them.
I think at times, that's not good enough for Manchester United. At times doesn't work for Man United. You have to be on it all the time. For me, if you look at those players on a piece of paper, you will go, right, okay, they should be in the top 2 or the top 3 in the league. Just by the players you have, the quality that you have. Unfortunately, there's something wrong in the dressing room. There's something wrong behind the scenes. There's something wrong on the training ground. And nobody's had the answers to that as yet. And I don't know what it's not the quality of player. There's something wrong, And like Wrighty said, when things start to come out, that's even worse. Because you know that you haven't got that togetherness in order to achieve.
But partly it's the fact that there are good players there. There's maybe not quite as many really good players as we think. I think there's a lot of players who are trading on reputation.
Well, this is what I was going to say. If we reassess them based on how they've performed at Man United,
I think we all retain the right to change our opinions at the facts check. But, you've got Luke Shaw and Jadon Sancho, and there are top performers. Though Rashford's in a difficult part of his career, and that's fine. He's entitled to go through difficult times, but throughout, even when they finished second last year, that squad didn't make any sense.
No.
The Ronaldo thing's become a bit of a red herring almost, that no one's saying that Ronaldo's a bad player or that he hasn't contributed massively, but he changes the way that everyone else has to play, and Bruno is the clearest example of that. And what they need more than anything is a look at the squad to try and make it have one kind of coherent vision of what sort of football they want to play. But
really, does that make the surroundings, everybody around Ronaldo wrong? Then are they not able to deal with Ronaldo, you know what I mean, being there? If he goes into a football club and he makes things better by being the best in the world and making everybody else's standards higher, does that mean the people around him are thinking, oh gosh, I've got to go into work and eat this, and I've got to go into work and score every time? I can't see that being a bad thing.
All that broccoli.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The thing is, you know that, Diz, to answer that question, what they say is when you've got great players make other players. That's what makes you a great player, is that you make other players around you perform at a certain level. Yeah. And we cannot question what Ronaldo's done at Man United in respect to the goals he's scored. And if he weren't there, you don't know where they would be at the moment. But let's face it, those players are not performing any better with arguably one of the greatest players in the world in that team. That still comes down to, for me, the coaching and the structure, the system. What system? I saw them play against Norwich a few weeks ago, and going into the game, they had so many offensive. They have all the offensive players. They had literally them all on, and I thought, this don't look right. Who's going to defend? It's just like he's literally just gone. Just go out and just go and beat Norwich, and Norwich nearly beat them. They could have beat them. And so when you look at that, Kells, what's going to change? Ten Hag is a very good coach. I think that someone like Jadon Sancho, and fingers crossed, someone like Rashford can really flourish under him, because he does play. When I saw his Ajax team, I saw Ziyech was there, this inverted winger stuff. So you have to feel that someone like Jadon Sancho probably may thrive, and you hope he does. But the rest of that team, to get them working, and the signings that they're going to have to make, I can't see how that's going to change very quickly.
And it's the number of signings as well. I mean, Rangnick said he thinks they need 10, which is the sort of thing.
He said over 3 or 4 windows as well, didn't he?
You wonder if maybe he wasn't meant to say that in public. It's just
well, he doesn't seem to be saying anything he's meant to be saying in public at the moment. He's just.
Will Man United have the patience for that? No, that's 3 or 4 windows. And remember, all this time as well, Rory, City and Liverpool are just continually getting better.
You can't stand still. Man United are too big a club to say, okay, you know what, we're going to sit it out for a year. Doesn't matter where you finish next season. We just want to see a style of play develop. Manchester United can't do that. Some clubs, Arsenal can, and Liverpool probably could. Manchester United can't. They need to be back in the Champions League.
You know when you go talking of Ronaldo, the effect again that he's had on the football club as a whole is that when you go into a football club as an individual, you go in and you find your feet, and then you get tested by everybody else in that squad to see if if they can trust you as a centre forward. When I signed, Roy Keane would be smashing it in, and be bouncing in. I'd have to control it, hold off Gary Pallister or Bruce, and then they start to trust you when they know that you can do that. Now Ronaldo's gone in, it's complete opposite. Ronaldo's gone and he's been the one and gone back to his own. He passes his own football club, and he's now testing everybody else as individuals, and a lot of them haven't been able to handle the standards that he set. And I think that's a massive problem.
I think that to go back to, it's a really interesting point. I think it was Xabi who said it about Lionel Messi, and said it's really hard, as brilliant as he is, it's really hard to play with him, because you have to think like him and you have to be like him, and you almost have to sacrifice a little bit of what you want to do and what you think. So you're almost thinking on 2 planes, and one of them is that of a footballing genius, which makes life quite hard.
Yeah, but the thing is with that, excuse me, then you feel that okay, because of the heights he's reached, we're talking he's one of the greats ever to play. Then when's the patience and when's the nurturing of what you've done to try and pass down? And when you look at a dressing room that is so split, dressing room that, a player of that caliber coming in should literally cement everything together because of what he's going to bring. And let's face it, what he is bringing. But what we're talking about in the dressing room, what is supposed to be concrete, solid, and everybody together, is totally the opposite. So it's very confusing to me what he is actually doing. Apart from it, obviously he's doing the best thing he can, he's scoring goals because that's what he does. But in respect to that dressing room, it's chaotic.
And Rory, it's not Rangnick's fault. It's not his fault. It's not.
We weren't
it wasn't
him.
Moyes' fault. All these managers.
Oh,
it's not your fault, girls.
It's the structure.
Definitely not my fault.
It's really boring to talk about kind of they need HR structures in place. It doesn't sound kind of what's sexy and glamorous is a big signing, or they can spend 150 million quid and that'll solve all the problems. But they need a proper structure. I remember being told after Fergie left, which is nearly 10 years ago, that they kind of just let quite a lot of positions go unfilled. They didn't have as many. They had more offices than scouts at Carrington because they had kind of let it drift. And by all accounts, the problem now is the opposite. There's lots of different people doing the same job. So I think there was certainly under one manager that there were two assistants who were meant to be kind of doing the same stuff as each other and competing for it. They've got two technical directors, and they might throw Rangnick in as a sporting consultant on top of that.
And that's what it's sport. That's the phrase I was struggling for earlier on.
You have to keep
all
up
those positions are called different things.
Well,
Effectively the
we
same.
don't say caretaker anymore. We have to say interim. It's very
Correct,
important.
yeah.
But Rangnick will get some deal potentially as a consultant. But what does that mean? How does he interact with John Murtough and Darren Fletcher? Who's in charge? Whose vision?
It's very confusing for me as well, Carl, because I saw on the bench and I saw Darren Fletcher actually telling Rangnick stuff, almost like he was giving him advice, and I saw Rangnick like shaking his head like say yeah. It seems like that role should be reversed, because if he's if he's going to be going upstairs to do that job what Rory just mentioned, I can't remember what it's called. What is it? Was he going?
Sporting consultant.
Sporting consultant. Then surely he should be the one who's doing the talking and the organising, but it doesn't seem like that's happening.
No, and like you said, in terms of the mixed messages, then that's not helping a dressing room that you've talked about as being split. And I wonder if back to your point, Dion, about the players around Cristiano Ronaldo and maybe not having that drive to eat the correct food or sleep at the right time or live in the right, whatever it may be, the extra small measures that he takes. I wonder if that's part of the recruitment policy, that the reason why you have this dressing room in such disarray is there hasn't been the recruiting of personalities. That
will work together. Round pegs and round holes at the moment. They've got good wingers, they've got decent centre forwards, they've got good players. But I just think, I always say, because what happened now, Ronaldo will be walking around the training ground. This is a fact. He'll be walking around the training ground. He'll be eating right. He'll be looking beautiful. He'll be going to the gym. He'll be doing everything correct. And what he will see is when he comes out the gym at 2:30, 3 in the afternoon, when training finished at 12:30, is kids going home in their cars. And the kids will be trying to get away before Ronaldo sees them going away. That's the kind of thing that happens. And I've always said, and I've been into football grounds and I've spoken to the academy kids and I've motivational speak to the kids what to do, what not to do. And I always end with, it's the work that people don't see that gets rewarded. And that's what Ronaldo's done for so long. And he won't be preaching it. It's just natural to him to go in the morning to have breakfast, train to the best of his ability, do his cold baths or whatever he does, go into the gym. But that's just the regime that he's done for so long, and I don't think
that's the regime he went into.
And that's something I don't think everybody wants to do. A lot of the kids will want to go home and just go like that and play on their games and stuff,
Which is fine.
Which is fine.
If when they turn up, people are allowed to.
You've got to do your work first. Times, it's all about the work,
especially a club like United.
Exactly. The fans. I live up north. I live a lot around the Man United fans. The fans aren't seeing at the moment blood, sweat and tears. As bad as they have been this season, because the Man United standards are so high, they haven't seen Man United players running through brick walls, as we used to call it, for the cause. They haven't seen it.
It was really striking in the defeat to Liverpool how little the players seem to care. And I'm always really wary of accusing players of downing tools or sort of chucking it in, because I've not been a footballer, and I refuse to believe that any player, especially at that level, doesn't primarily play for their personal dignity. They don't want to be embarrassed.
They don't really. They don't.
You're right.
I don't really believe that there won't be players in that squad who aren't doing. I'm pretty sure they'll all be eating right. I can't believe Marcus Rashford isn't trying really hard to be
It's
his
more
old
the,
self.
the extra stuff.
Yeah.
They'll all have a basic level.
Of course they will.
But I do
right,
wonder
yeah.
whether it's more that they know that the culture of the club is that there is no patience, that there is no kind of unity of purpose, there is no unity of vision, there's fractures with the fans. They know that the manager's going to go, and if it all goes wrong, the manager's going to go. They know that half the team's out of contract. You know, you're walking around looking at Mata and Matic and Pogba and all the others, and you know they're all going. What are you playing for? What are you doing that extra work for?
I think that, again, when you look at the recruitment, and you can't not look at the recruitment of City and Liverpool and the way they're going about buying their players, not just the shiniest one, but how will he fit into the structure? And so when you look at Manchester United's players, they do not gel. There's so many different personalities in there that are not on the same page when they get on the football pitch in respect of what they're trying to achieve.
This is what I found really, really interesting about the Manchester United recruitment, because this is something there's a real opportunity to fix this. The things that we're talking about as a problem right now, like the players who are going to be out of contract, like the fact that Ralf Rangnick is going to be moving on from his position as manager, whether that's to sporting consultant or not is a different thing, but there is a new manager coming in. All those things that mean there's turmoil at the moment mean that there's a fresh start, there's an opportunity for a clean slate over the summer. But this idea of the personality of the club, if you went, and if we're saying City and Liverpool are the benchmarks, if you went to City and Liverpool, you could pick not just the positions, the type of players, you could pick a personality, you could meet someone, you could pretty much divide all the people you know into they're a Pep Guardiola person or they're a Jurgen Klopp person. You could pretty much do that. But could you, we know what a Manchester United person used to be, probably similar to a Real Madrid personality, similar sort of personality. But it feels like they're not what's there. And that, I think, is really interesting, because they're the things that you can do all the football analysis you want, but they're the things that make the magic happen. Yeah,
that's the core. This is why you listen to Roy Keane speak about the Man United players, and he's gone to the place where he's no longer angry, he's disappointed. And I think that when you look at Man United, and not just the first team, but when you're growing up in the Man United academy, the standards down there is what get you ready for the first team. So what's happened is, somewhere along the line, they've lost what it's about to play for Man United, and how, yes, you're going to be under more pressure because you are playing for Man United. And it seems like there's a lot of players there now who cannot deal with the weight of expectation from the club. And like Rory rightly said, there is no way that club is going to have the patience for that to happen, for them to start to turn it all around, to then slowly find the right person upstairs who's going to make the decisions, to bring the right people in. Then you got to find the people to be good enough to find the right player and the right personality. That takes time.
And this is the problem, isn't it? This is the absolute difficulty that Roy mentioned before. Manchester United need immediate success, and they also need a blueprint for future success, and they need both of those things to happen from the first day of next season, straight away under a brand new manager. I mean, what can they do in this short term and in the long term?
Man United, Kelly, have very, very good footballers. They've got a very good squad of individual talent. They really have. I think it's down to someone going into the dressing room and saying, right, and the manager, whoever it is, goes in and says, what's going on? Who's going to be brave enough to say, right, what's going on? What's going wrong? Just let's have it out. You know, is he not running enough, or he's not running enough, or do you not trust him? Or let's just talk about what's going wrong, because the squad of players I have in front of me right now is world class. It really is. So I think it's somebody asking the questions rather than talking at players. Talk to them.
Should have happened ages ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what hasn't happened.
We've now got a Manchester United manager who's given up on the fact that he's now admitting we can't make top four. Those kind of things are things you don't associate with Man United. They've given up.
In his defence, it'd be hard to come out and say.
It would be hard to come out and say
we
that.
are going to make top.
You just don't hear it from the manager, though.
Yeah, but you know, you don't need to say that. For me, I don't think Ralf Rangnick needs to say that, because I think that we can all work it out ourselves. We're starting to see things that are coming out of the dressing room. It's a very leaky dressing room, like we've said, and your manager's saying that. It's literally telling them it's okay because we're not going to make top four, so
But it was really interesting at the start with Rangnick. He said a couple of kind of indiscreet things, and we all thought, oh, hang on, the players won't like that. And there was a bit of kind of hubbub around the United fans about it. But now he does it every week, and the fans adore it. He is telling it like it is. He is saying to them, this is what's wrong with this club, this is what needs to be fixed. And it's bizarre that he's going to come out of this with his reputation enhanced despite results, just because he's been brutally honest about how dysfunctional everything is.
Do you think it's in Manchester United's interest to keep a man who's been in that dressing room, who knows those players, who knows how the club runs, who knows what the link is between manager and board and ownership? Do you think he's got a role, or
Absolutely,
does the fact
Charles.
that he's
I think
the
he's the
results haven't
exact
gone
person
well?
right now, whether he's the one to carry on, but what he's seen since his time he's been there till now, he's the exact person that Ten Hag needs to tell him what's going on with him and him. He's the exact person, whether he stays on for me after that or not, Rory. That's what I believe.
He's very much worth a long coffee, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Worth a long coffee.
Ten Hag buys him lunch,
Yes.
and they set aside an afternoon.
Absolutely.
I mean, to be honest, I would be inclined to keep him around, Rangnick. I think he's more experienced in that role than either John Murtough or Darren Fletcher. That is what he's best suited as now, Rangnick. He's a consultant, a sporting director, an overseer. He's never really been an elite coach in that sense, but he'd be an invaluable resource.
Could that work then? Could you have Rangnick overseeing the longer term project, and you've got Ten Hag doing the day-to-day, right, this is what we're going to do this season, this is what we're going to do in the next game. Could that actually work?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're both used to it. Rangnick did that for Nagelsmann at RB Leipzig, and Ten Hag will have worked in that structure at Ajax. The difficulty is that Man United, like Real Madrid, is a club that is about power. It's about kind of internecine battles for power inside, and it's whether that relationship can survive in that environment. But yeah, there's no reason why not.
I think it's about going in and figuring out what characters you have in the dressing room and how you can use that character to your best.
Even at this stage?
Well, for the new season, for who he's going to keep and who he's not going to keep. That's what I mean.
And some of that will be out of his hands, of
and
course.
some of that will be out of his hands. Of course, Ralf Wrighty's right. Ralf will have to tell him that's not quite right in training. He's not quite right. They stick together. So that's the information that he needs straight away, so that he can start to work with the players that want to work for Man United. There's a bigger picture, which is the pressure on the individual's shoulder for playing for Manchester United or playing for a big club. When you win, everything's fine. When you lose, in a way that Man United have lost recently, you stay in the house. Do you know what I mean? You don't go out for meals, you don't go for a walk, you stay in the house. That kind of information might sound harsh, but that's what it is. When you're in a football club that has a winning mentality, you don't win, you stay indoors. You can't enjoy it. You've got to put it right, and then you can enjoy it.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But they've got this incoming manager who is known as an excellent coach, and so you would assume that he can, until they get the kind of players, enough of the kind of players that they want for this, whatever this blueprint is going to be going forward. You get the impression he could get the most, at least, out of what he's already got, because that's what's not been happening at Manchester United. I mean, that's surely the most, in a way, easily fixable, or the easiest to spot, that the players who are there aren't performing as well as they individually can.
You shouldn't have to coach these players on how to play the game in the position they are designated to. You have to persuade the player to do the job in that position for the team. That's all you got to do. Coach them that, get them to embed that, and then they'll do that's all you have to do. They are great players, Kelly. 85% of them are great players. Are they happy to go and do a job for the team and become successful? That's a different matter.
I think if you look at Guardiola and Klopp particularly, a lot of the attacking, you watch Liverpool and City and you think they're freewheeling attacking units, but they're not. It's all by rote. They're all movements they've been taught, drilled them again and again and again in training.
That's it.
I'm not sure. Mourinho definitely doesn't do that. Mourinho's thing is, I'll organise the defence, you take care of the dirty business of scoring goals.
That was the early era Manchester City under Guardiola, wasn't it? Where as the players got used to him, he didn't overload them with information. He went, get to the final third, and then it's on you. But that's come later. Yeah, and as the players got more used to his methods and kind of understood what he wanted more, now you looked at them and you can see the movements with City. They're the same every time. You can't stop them, but they're the same. And I don't think Solskjaer did that. That's not how Solskjaer attacked. He was very much about expression. You can make a case that a lot of the attacking players at United probably haven't been coached in what is now considered cutting-edge style.
possibly at all in their careers.
You look at someone like Marcus Rashford. You know, you have to look at Marcus Rashford and his development up to this point. Yes, he's going through form and confidence and everything like that. But again, when you're playing with a coach who's coaching you and you're doing that in the team and you do it to the best of your ability, then the rest of the team are doing it around you as well. What comes with that is confidence, because you're doing what's right, what the manager wants. Then you're kind of putting your own confidence on it. So we're talking about getting 7 and 8 out of 10 performances out of you. Then confidence comes. Then you start playing well. Then it just starts flourishing. But when you look at the way Man United play, and I don't know, defensively from midfield, they never control a game. They haven't got any players, for me, who can get on the ball and manage the game and dictate the pace of the game. They're at the mercy of any organised team, and we saw it with Norwich, even with Norwich, who are going down, right? That they don't know what they're doing. So you think to yourself, if Ten Hag can come in with these very good players, because they are good players, right? I like Dalot, I like Telles to come in. You know, Harry Maguire with the right people, of course, you give him the right protection. We've seen that he's going to be okay. The fact is, Scott McTominay's got the engine. Fred, we're seeing him play very well. And then up front, you've got Ronaldo, you've got Sancho, and you've got Rashford once he gets his form and just stuff like that. So you've got players that if they're organised in a structure, they start playing to that structure and they start getting confidence in it, they will beat teams. But I don't know how comes that hasn't happened up to this point. It didn't happen under Ole. Didn't happen under him. It didn't. You see them and you think, what are they playing? What's their system?
But
Ten Hag hopefully will give them that.
Are they listening? Is that maybe an issue?
That's the whole point.
And the reason I ask that is because there's so much coming out of the dressing room that suggests that we're not happy with this manager, we don't like his methods. Well, it doesn't look as though there are methods, so maybe they're not listening. That's possible.
I can't see. I've sat with George Graham shouting through, and I've not been listening. he's talking at me, and that's another thing. When you've got a manager that's constantly on you and shouting at you, in the end you don't listen. But I knew what he wanted me to do, and once I'd done what he wanted me to do, whether it's chase back, track back, make sure you hold the ball. Once you're doing that stuff and you feel confident doing what you're doing, then your own expression comes out.
If you look at the Man United squad of players, even now. Today, I don't know who plays where. I don't know. Back four, you've got about 6 or 7 players that can play there. I don't know who's their best. You look in the midfield, you know, great players again, Rashford, Sancho, Bruno, Pogba, all brilliant. But I'm not sure who plays best where in that system because we don't know how they play.
The only thing that's fixed is De Gea and Ronaldo. It's the only fixed things there.
And that's because it's a squad that's been cobbled together by lots of different managers at lots of different times with lots of different styles. And the other thing that they miss, I think, is that, so we talk a lot about philosophy and visions and all those poncy words. It gives you a benchmark when things aren't going well. You know why you're making that run. You know the ball never arrives because the midfielder's not good enough to play it. You know why you're tracking that runner, even though he's much faster than you and you can't keep up and you concede a goal.
That's when managers look most supportive on the touchline, isn't it? When players give the ball away and the manager's like this, because you were doing what he asked them to do.
That basic mistake is exactly what I wanted you to do nearly. Guardiola's a master at that. Guardiola never enjoys anything more than seeing one of his own players give the ball away in the wrong place. But it gives you something to work towards, and that United haven't had that for ages. So they need some sort of broader, more coherent vision of what they want to be, and then maybe the players can buy into something.
I think a lot of it comes down to when you have a problem with at a football club like United, or I'm talking the biggest clubs in our league, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, City. When you have a problem, normally, if the manager can't fix it, the players will fix it. Or the seniors that are in charge of the dressing room will fix it. Or they'll have a meeting with just the players. Gaffer, coaches, leave us alone, really. We need to have a chat about this. We need to have it out. And the players will deal with it. At United, they don't have the leaders or the people that are able or want to take charge and say, right, hold it a minute, lads. Something's wrong here. We are Man United and we are absolutely struggling here. Why are we struggling? Look around, the quality. There's no leaders and nobody wants to take responsibility. In his day, there was about 11. The squad of Man United players I was in, there was about 15. You look at all the teams that have won the league, Chelsea, even Blackburn with Alan Shearer and Tim Sherwood and Tim Flowers, They were all leaders. Man United don't have anybody that's willing to take charge.
And we keep waiting for Manchester United and those players to perform to the best of their ability. It's not quite happened yet. Will it happen against Chelsea? They play each other later on this evening. Thomas Tuchel has been talking ahead of the game.
And Tony is a huge factor in our 1.5 seasons together. He gives everybody confidence in the dressing room. He is a unique character. He's an aggressive leader. He is available over 100% of the matches, like 90% of the matches. He's simply available, and he plays on an outstanding level. And no matter how the situation will be solved and when it will be solved and how things will be settled in the end, and how active we can be on the transfer market, can we react in which frame we can react. At the end, we will dig in and we will try to squeeze out everything of the squad that we have. And I hopefully, and like I know myself, I will again fall in love with the squad that I have then, and try to push the squad to the limit. Like I said, it was a pleasure every single day with Tony, and we have not reached all our goals that we have for this season, so there are still things to achieve, big things, and he is still a big part of this club, and we demand still 100% of him, and this is where the focus is. And then from pre-season next season, we will, like I said, life will go on. We will give our very best, and I will be fully involved with all my heart and all my knowledge, sure.
Chelsea find themselves in a difficult situation as well. I mean, now, problem-solving skills are required yet again in this case, but we're now going to involve international politics as well into that, which I don't mean to make light of, just to point out the limitations as to what we can kind of say about what's happening at Chelsea and what we can kind of work out. So let's start with the stuff that we can make head and tail of, which is, you can't actually say that phrase that way around, I don't think, but let's try it. With what's happening on the pitch with Chelsea, it's not working out for them at the moment. They look like players have lost their way a little bit. There might be a bit of an element of what's happening at Manchester United in that they're sort of comfortable in third and not really sure what they're playing about. Plus, the future is uncertain past the summer.
Very uncertain past the summer. You look at Chelsea, and they're talking about Rudiger there, and obviously, I think that even before everything's happened with Chelsea, with the sanctions, I think his mind was kind of made up. He's going to run that contract down so as he can leave. We're hearing that he's going to go to Madrid, and I don't think it helped. He's kind of like being ostracised under Frank, you know what I mean, coming in and then doing so brilliantly. But when you look at the way it's been managed at Chelsea with, you have to say Gahey and Tomori, they were maybe, before Tuchel could maybe get hold of them, they were kind of gone. And then you've got Christensen and Aspilicueta coming out of contract, and Rudiger now maybe leaving. You just think to yourself, what is going on there at the moment in midfield? You know, Kante, Jorginho, they're getting to that age now, so they're going to need. I think they need at least three centre halves. Chelsea, they're going to need another defensive midfielder up front. It's been a nightmare, you know, with Lukaku. You know, Timo Werner, whatever anyone says. Timo Werner puts in the kind of performances where you can still get something from him.
Puts a shift in. Puts a shift in,
and you get something from him. But when you look at hopefully Callum Hudson-Odoi, you've got Ziyech, you've got Christian Pulisic, you've got so many players that if the new people come in, and that Rory, and they're going to say, listen, you're going to have to work with these guys, man. You're going to make Pulisic play better, make them play better. Callum Hudson-Odoi, the potential and what he's capable, make them play better. Because when you look at Chelsea, it looks very, very scary with what they've got to do with the sanctions and new owners. New owners might come in. Lukaku. What are you going to do with you have to say a problem that now Chelsea find in Lukaku, with the amount of money he's been earned, that they paid for him, you know, the amount of money he's earning, is that going to be some loan somewhere? Because if the new people come in and said, no, we're going to clean house and we want to start again, then bam, they're going to have to take that hit. But like, I look at Chelsea and I was on the driving in, I was thinking, that's a massive problem at Chelsea right now.
It's confusing, Chelsea, isn't it? It's really hard to know which way they go. Do they try and ship out all those players that are under contract, which are good players? They are good players, or do you try and keep them and try and work with what you've got? I genuinely don't know how Tuchel's going to make this better.
But that's his
They
presence.
can't at the
His
moment,
presence
though,
is
as well.
Well, yeah, they can't do anything at the moment.
Yeah.
But we are expecting white smoke from the chimney at some point.
Over Stamford Bridge.
We'll be over Manhattan, because that's where they're running it
Well,
from. Isn't it?
right.
The rain
Yeah,
group.
okay.
Sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
and one of the three groups, whether it's Stephen Paliuca, the owner of the Boston Celtics, or the one with all the people involved,
Yes.
Sebastian Coe, Martin Broughton,
Yeah.
apparently Serena Williams.
Yeah. Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis
that's somebody,
Hamilton
yes,
is involved,
that's-
boyhood Arsenal fan. There's that one, and then there is the Todd Bowley, Hans-Jörg Wyss, various other people one. There's lots of consortiums, there's lots of people. One of those will be named owners eventually, we presume. Can't guarantee it, we presume that one of those will be named owners.
Well, what do you mean? We can't, so it's not guaranteed that any of them will.
Well, potentially not, because it still has to be approved by Abramovich. Although he can't access the funds, it's his thing. So by all accounts, he still gets to, if he doesn't like any of the bids, by all accounts, he can still say no. And then there is a political element to it as well, that the British government have to be confident that they are handing Chelsea a valuable cultural asset.
Having frozen their assets and having frozen their access to, they have to.
It's a
they have to
political
look
thing now.
responsible.
Yeah, they can't.
It's
they
an
can't,
image thing.
They couldn't just give it to me.
Could you afford it?
That would
This
be
is brand new
that'd be a wise
information to us.
move. Be a wise
be a
move.
very
Don't
wise
give
move.
it to Rory.
Yeah,
That's what I would say.
that's basic. It was 101 club sales. Don't give it to me.
You have to sell one of his properties to raise the funds.
Properties, you say? Oh, sorry.
Massively overestimating the wages that New York.
Stairs, loads of stairs.
So is it going to happen
I
this
think
week,
it will
you
be.
think?
We're meant to be getting an answer this week as to who the preferred bidder is, and there is then another stage to that process.
Rory, you know when, if like you just mentioned those different consortiums, if they all came in with the same amount of money to buy Chelsea or to take over, who then would have the decision on that?
That's a slightly murky question, to be honest. So Rain Group are the New York investment bank who are running the process, and I guess it would be up to them to decide whose pitch is best for the vision for the club, or I mean, I think it's unlikely that the terms will all be the same. Someone will be offering the most money, but I guess it's whoever sort of, maybe it's similar to when you're buying a house. You kind of sometimes have to meet the owner, and you maybe have to
Hope they've baked a cake or something.
charm them a little bit.
Is there also a question of
Sounds nice.
the Rain Group who are overseeing this as a huge international banking group? There is a sort of will from them to stay on the good side of people with an awful lot of money who may like to invest in it. They have skin in this game as well.
They really do, Kelly, and they get very cross if you suggest that to them. They really don't like being told that perhaps they're not an entirely neutral participant in the. But obviously they can't be, because you're dealing with incredibly wealthy people who will at some point. I mean, Todd Bowley part owns the LA Dodgers. They might have some massive, infrastructure project that Rain Group might want a part of. So obviously that's a factor. We're meant to get an answer this week, but whoever gets it will not be underwriting losses of 100 million quid a year like Abramovich was. Things will change at Chelsea. There will not be the days of sort of self-sustainability until you really want to sign Romelu Lukaku.
Yes.
Where there's a player that you really have to, like, we really like this guy. Roman, please, can we have the money? That sort of model of just about self-sustainability.
And him just saying
Independent living until you go to the bank of mum and dad.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
and Roman Abramovich just saying yes. When you look at the way that City side, we constantly have to talk about City and Liverpool, the way they've gone about their business, because they're streets ahead of everybody else for no other reason other than they are brilliant upstairs, brilliant managers, and their players are fantastic. Right, so you look at the way that they're signing players. Chelsea don't sign players like that, and that is what they're probably going to have to do, because when you've got somebody who says it's okay, if you've got 100 million, I'll just write it off. That's not happening no more. So they cannot do that. So whoever's going to be doing recruitment for them now is going to actually have to earn his money.
But it's all well and good talking about recruitment. The problem is, at the moment, they don't know who's going to be leaving. They don't know who they can bring in. They can't even start any negotiations with any of the players that they would potentially want to bring, other than the most rudimentary sort of contact with them, because they don't know what they don't know what their situation is going to be.
And the thing is, we're getting into the part of the season where you're probably planning what you want to happen now for the.
You should be. If you're not, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. So with like everything you've said, and then they don't know what's going on. It's absolutely. I can't even find a word to say the position they find themselves in You know, it's a nightmare.
But
The
also
Rudiger
for the-
thing predates the sanctions. That
Yeah.
Wrighty's totally right. That if you looked at their defence, you've got Thiago Silva, who is 37 or 38, and has a World Cup. He is at Chelsea because he wants to be in the Brazil squad for the World Cup in November. That's the only reason he's in England. Otherwise, he'd be off on the beach in Brazil somewhere. At 37, 38, exactly. At 37, 38, it'd be better than being in Doha. he is going to, at some point, especially next season, he's going to play the first half of the season, then a World Cup,
and then back.
I think he might be quite tired.
Yeah.
I mean, Thiago Silva's been one of the best of his generation, and it's brilliant that we've had the chance to see him in England. But time catches up with us all. Christensen's going.
Yeah.
Rudiger's going. Azpilicueta might go. We think Barcelona certainly think they can sign Azpilicueta, but they've known about Rudiger and Christensen's contract for 2 years.
They'll find themselves in a situation where these players obviously will be allowed to go because their contracts are up. And with nobody coming in at the moment under the situation they are under, that sort of cloud, then this manager has to deal with what's left.
Because it's still not sure whether
and it's going to
Chelsea,
get worse.
at the moment, until the new owners are properly in and the sanctions have been lifted or the sort of assets have been unfrozen, defrosted, if you like, that we don't know that Chelsea can actually. We're not sure really whether Chelsea can actually sell players at the moment, are we? Or they can sell it, but they can't.
They can't. They
Abramovich
definitely
can't
can't
access the funds.
Yeah.
Oh, they can release.
I think they can. They can certainly release players,
Okay.
and I think that under the terms of the licence, which the government have kind of said they will tweak as necessary, they could probably, if there was a player who was desperate to leave, they could sell that player, and the money would then be put in a special account for the new owners to unlock when they take over. But that
it
takes
just
months.
leads to more uncertainty as well, which comes back to the players and the performances that we're seeing from Chelsea and that uncertainty buying into so many of those players whose futures, as of this summer, are uncertain. They don't know where they're going to be. They don't know where they're going to be playing. If they're staying at Chelsea, they don't know what playing for Chelsea next season is going to look like.
It can't be. It's like I say. It comes to when you get to like what Chelsea are doing now. Obviously, they've got an FA Cup final, but you know when you get to this stage of the season, you do start thinking. Obviously, you've got the final, but then you start thinking about right next year we're going to do this. They literally can't do that. They can't. I think that as the years have gone by, Chelsea have turned into a kind of a cup team anyway. The way that they've been, they've not really been challenging. We thought that with Lukaku coming at the start of the season, there's a lot of us. I tipped Chelsea and Liverpool. I said Chelsea, Liverpool, and I went with Chelsea. I'm gutted I've done that now, but the fact is,
Because it's Manchester City.
yes, I'm still going with Liverpool. But the fact is that when Lukaku signed, I thought that was the final piece, and you know how wrong we all were. But like when you look at them now and what's going to happen next season, it is a frightening prospect because you don't know what's going to happen. Kante, like I mentioned, he's getting to that side of it, that stage of his career now. Same with Jorginho at 29s and stuff like that. So they're looking to have to maybe bring in those. They've got to strengthen everywhere. They've got to find something everywhere. So you know, Chalobah's not even. You know, not too long ago he's doing brilliantly. He's not getting a squad recently. So he's probably somebody that they're going to have to go back to at some stage because it seems like they're not going to have any defenders there anyway.
I think if you can find out the reason why Romelu Lukaku didn't work, then you'll find out the reason for why Chelsea aren't doing it. Because I don't know how you can't get a player like Romelu Lukaku to continue to score goals for Chelsea at the rate he was scoring before. I don't know what can be wrong. You know, why wouldn't you play in a way that suits him? Because you've just spent 97 million or whatever it was on him.
Nice.
You know, and I was with Wright. I'm thinking, oh, Chelsea, here we go. Chelsea, Romelu Lukaku, brilliant. There you go.
The most used phrase on that signing was missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, correct.
That was it.
Correct.
That was
Well, and I genuinely thought it was. I thought they've got some really good players.
He couldn't have been signed by Tuchel. It doesn't make any sense.
It can't really, just because Tuchel's so smart tactically.
Yeah.
It's really hard to imagine that he signed Lukaku thinking, I want him to do this, without like checking whether Lukaku was on board with it. That seems totally impossible.
You know, and the biggest surprise is when Romelu came out and done his interview, that was almost like the death knell for himself because I don't know how you come back from that.
In the midst of all of this, there's a game tonight. Manchester United against Chelsea. Very brief predictions. Rory, thoughts?
Chelsea, I'm going with.
Okay, that was very brief.
And he made that easier, probably Chelsea.
Yeah.
I'll go United.
Will you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he used to play for him.
Because I didn't play for Chelsea.
Fair enough. That's the kind of in-depth football analysis you could expect right here. Coming up, we are going to be looking at the rest